All right, so today's class on equations, we are going to look at solving type 1 and type 2 equations. So we'll start with type 1, which are just basic equations, where we're just gonna use the opposite operation to determine the value of our variable. And usually we use the variable, the letter x. So we have to solve for x. All right, so the opposite operation of subtraction would be addition, and vice versa. The opposite operation of multiplication would be division, and vice versa. So let's take a look at the first 4 types of type 1 equations. So here we have our equation x plus 7 is equal to 9. So what we're trying to do is isolate x and solve for x. Like, what would x be? So we have our equation, and I usually just like to show the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So our equal sign is right here. We call the left-hand side the left side of the equal sign, and the right-hand side is the right side of the equal sign. So when we're solving equations, whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side of the equation. All right, so this is easily solvable. What number plus 7 will give us 9? But what we need to focus on is showing our steps, because as we work through these equations, they are going to get more complex. So what we have to show here is the equation is showing addition of 7. So we want to subtract 7 on both sides, all right, to show that we're doing the opposite operation. So plus 7 minus 7, that'll give us 0, right? So on the left-hand side now, we're left with x is equal to, and then on the right-hand side, we're left with 9 minus 7, which is equal to 2. So we've solved our equation that x is equal to 2. And you can easily do a check. A check is done by taking what you've solved and substituting it back into the original equation. So we solved that x is equal to 2. We can substitute that back into our equation. Make sure left-hand side is equal to the right-hand side. And since it is, then we know that we got the correct answer. Okay, let's take a look at this one here. So we have x minus 3 equals 4. So how are we going to undo minus 3? We got to show our steps. So we're going to add 3, right? We're doing the opposite operation so that we can get x by itself. So minus 3 plus 3, that's just 0. So we're left with x is equal to 4 plus 3. So x is equal to 7. And if we did a quick check, substitute 7 in for x. 7 minus 3 is equal to 4. 4 is equal to 4. Therefore, it is correct. Okay, any questions so far? So our next example, we have 7x equals 35. Now we did go over this quite a bit when we were looking at substitution in our first unit. Anytime you have a number and a letter next to each other like this, it means multiplication. So it means 7 is being multiplied by x. So the opposite of multiplication is to divide. So we're going to divide both sides by 7. All right, so I've shown it just like this. So 7x divided by 7, that leaves us with 1x. We don't have to show 1, we can just write x. And then 35 divided by 7 is equal to 5. And again, if you did a check, 7 times 5 on the left side, 35 is on the right side. Left side is equal to right side, therefore it's correct. Okay, and last one here, we have x divided by 3 is equal to 8. So we can multiply both sides by 3. Both sides by 3. We'll be left with 3x over 3 is equal to 24. 3x divided by 3 is just 1x, or x. So x is equal to 24. So let's go over the first one. So x plus 6 is equal to 8. So to show your work, make sure you are showing the opposite of adding 6, which would be to subtract 6. We have to do it to both sides of the equal sign. All right, so 6 minus 6, that will leave us with 0. We're left with x on the left side, and then 8 minus 6, which is 2. So there's our answer. X is equal to 2 for that one. Here we have x minus 8 equals 4. So we have to do the opposite, which is add 8 to both sides. We're left with x is equal to 4 plus 8, which is 12. All right, here I had already started kind of solving it. We have 5x equals negative 35. So we would divide by 5 on both sides. 5 divided by 5 is 1. X, which you can just write as x. And then negative 35 divided by 5 is negative 7. All right, recall when we worked on integers. If you're dividing a negative number by a positive number, your answer is going to be negative. And then lastly here, we have x divided by 3 equals negative 8. So you can use cross multiplication, which we've been using when we were in our ratio unit, where you could just cross multiply. But using algebra, the opposite of division is to multiply by 3 on both sides. I'm just showing it by using brackets. So then we're left with 3x divided by 3. And then we know 3 divided by 3 is just 1. So we're left with just x. And then on the right side, we have negative 8 times 3, which is negative 24. All right, so there we go for type 1 equations. So next we're looking at type 2 equations. In type 2 equations, we're going to have to use 2 steps. So we have to do 2 opposite operations to solve for the variable, which is usually x. All right, we have to do any addition or subtraction first. Then we will do multiplication or division. So it's like the opposite of BEDMAS. Okay, we are undoing the equation. So we're going to do addition or subtraction first, and then we will do multiplication or division. So let's look at our first example here. We have 5x minus 7 equals 8. So the rule states we have to do any addition subtraction first. So here we have minus 7. So we would do the opposite of that first, which is to add 7. We've got to do it to both sides. Negative 7 plus 7, that leaves us with 0. So on the left side, we're left with 5x. And on the right side, we have 8 plus 7. 8 plus 7, which is 15. Now it looks like a type 1 equation. We have 5x is equal to 15. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we're going to divide by 5 on both sides, which leaves us with x is equal to 3. Okay, we can do a quick check to make sure that we did that right. All we got to do is substitute 3 back into our x there. So 5 times 3 minus 7 is supposed to equal to 8. We have 15 minus 7. It has to equal to 8. And then 15 minus 7 does equal to 8. So our left side is equal to our right side, so it's correct. Okay, let's try this one here. We have x over 8, or x divided by 8, plus 3 is equal to 12. So again, we have to do addition, subtraction first. So it's a positive 3 or a plus 3. So the opposite of that is to subtract 3. So subtract 3 from both sides. We have x over 8 is equal to 12 minus 3, because this is gone here. 12 minus 3 is 9. And lastly, we just have to multiply by 8 on both sides. Multiply by 8, multiply by 8. And that'll leave us with x is equal to 9 times 8, which is 72. And again, you can do the check. You can do the check by substituting 72 back into our equation here. So 72 divided by 8 plus 3 has to equal to 12. 9 plus 3 has to equal to 12. And then left side and right side, they're both equal to 12. So it's correct. So the first thing we're going to do in this equation is any opposite addition or subtraction. So we have a minus 6 here. So the opposite of that, we're going to add 6. So add 6 to both sides. Negative 6 plus 6, that just cancels each other out. That becomes 0. So on the left side, we're left with 7x. On the right side, we have 15 plus 6, which is 21. So now we have 7x equals 21. We still want to get x all by itself so that we can solve for x. So we have to get rid of the 7. So because it's 7 times x, we're going to do the opposite of that, which is to divide by 7 on both sides. 7 divided by 7 is just 1. We're left with 1x, just x. And then on the right side, we have 21 divided by 7, which is 3. So our answer is x is equal to 3. And we can check that by putting it back into our original equation. We can substitute it back into our original equation. So 7 times 3 minus 6 has to equal to 15. And then we have 21 minus 6 has to equal to 15. And then 21 minus 6 is 15. So left side is equal to right side. So it's correct. All right, I'll give you guys a moment to try the next one here. We have 2x plus 4 is equal to 8. All right, so our next one is 2x plus 4 is equal to 8. So what is x? That's what we're trying to solve for. What is x? When it multiplies to 2, adds to 4, it gives us an answer of 8. So to figure it out, we have to undo all the operations and get x by itself so that we can solve for x. So here, it's adding 4, so we're going to subtract 4. Whatever we do to the left side, we have to do to the right side of the equation. So on the left side, positive 4 minus 4, that cancels each other's out. We're left with 2x is equal to 8 minus 4. So that's what we have on the right side of the equation. So now we have 2x is equal to 4. So we still have to isolate x all by itself. So here it's 2 multiplied by x. So we're going to divide by 2 on both sides. 2 divided by 2 is 1, leaving us with 1x, or just x. And then 4 divided by 2 is equal to 2. So we've solved for x. X is equal to 2. And you can do your check by substituting it back in. 2 times 2 plus 4 has to equal to 8. 2 times 2 is 4. And we have plus 4 has to equal to 8. Left side equals right side. So therefore it was done correctly. Okay, so I think we'll pause here today.